You know, it feels like we live in a world that's just obsessed with scale, right? Everything's got to be bigger, taller, faster. So, how do we measure our own ambitions in the middle of all that? Well, that's exactly what we're going to get into in this explainer. We'll explore that question through a really powerful story about, well, finding our own footing.
So, where does it all start? It kicks off with this really simple but kind of profound moment. You've got this man, they call him the uncle, and he just stops on a busy city sidewalk. And he's not just, gawking up at this huge skyscraper. He's measuring. Yeah, he's measuring the building, for sure, but it's deeper than that. He's measuring himself against it. See, it's a moment of real reflection, not just some knee-jerk reaction.
And right there, that moment, that brings us to the absolute core question we're tackling today. When it feels like the whole world is screaming at you to go bigger, faster, higher, what kind of yardstick are you supposed to use for your own life? I mean, really, what is the true measure of a life that actually feels meaningful? Okay, so our first stop on this journey is right at the foot of this modern-day monument, a skyscraper. Let's imagine we're all standing there with him, looking up, and really trying to figure out, what is this symbol of power and progress actually telling us about ourselves?
And this is where we get the uncle's first big insight. He doesn't see the building as some attempt to touch the heavens or anything like that. No, for him, it's a physical, concrete manifestation of human drive. It's like a giant mirror, reflecting our own deep-seated desire to reach for something, to achieve, to build something that's going to last.
But here comes the really crucial warning. That same ambition, the one that builds these incredible wonders, it can also be super destructive. Because when it's just left unchecked, when it completely forgets its limits, that exact same power that can raise steel and glass into the sky, well, it can also wound the very human spirit that dreamed it up in the first place.
Of course, right? A monument this huge, everyone's going to see it differently. And as the group is standing there, these four really distinct perspectives start to emerge. Each one offers its own unique critique of this towering ambition. And when you put them all together, you start to get a much more complete picture.
So let's break down these different viewpoints real quick. First, you've got the cousin. He's all about systems, and he's worried that this much height disconnects us from the ground, from our roots. Then there's Roger, who's the voice of reason. He warns that power gets dangerous the second it forgets its own limits. After him is the aunt, who brings compassion to the table. She points out that this feeling of being disconnected, it really begins inside, in the heart. And finally, the uncle, who represents wisdom, he kind of ties it all together by reminding everyone that what really matters is knowing where you're looking in the first place.
Okay, so just as this whole debate is heating up, something happens that changes everything. A real chance encounter. The uncle's old friend, a guy named Erhan, just shows up and invites the whole group to a press conference. And just like that, boom, the entire story pivots. We go from looking up at a building to listening inward to a brand new idea.
All right, so now the scene shifts. We're in a conference hall. You can just feel the mood, right? It's tense, packed with cameras, academics, the whole shebang. And then onto the stage walks the speaker. He's called the young man from Dayface, and let me tell you, he brings a totally different kind of energy into that stuffy room.
And this is absolutely key to understanding this guy. He's not up there trying to be some charismatic leader who wants everyone to follow him. Nope, his role is something else. He's a witness. Think of it like this. He's someone who has observed what he believes is a fundamental truth about all of us, about humanity, and he's just there to report on it. That's it, to share it with clarity.
So the speaker gets up there and opens with this really bold statement. He basically says that humanity, eventually, is going to find its balance and, grow up. And as you can probably guess, this is met with a lot of skepticism. The very first challenge comes from a journalist who pretty much dismisses the whole idea as just simple, naive optimism. But this is where the speaker makes this absolutely brilliant distinction. He says, look, optimism, that's just a wish. It's hoping for a good outcome. What he's talking about is a direction, an observable trajectory. It's not wishful thinking. He sees it as an actual analysis of where we are fundamentally heading as a species.
So you might be asking, what's this analysis based on? Well, it's not based on technology or systems or politics. It's based on us. On the one thing that makes us human, our unique capacity to recognize our own mistakes, and, this is the crucial part, to actually learn from them. His whole point is that even when we screw up, just being aware that we failed is in itself a form of progress.
Well, the skepticism in the room doesn't go away. In fact, it kind of hardens. Another journalist pushes back, but this time the tone is sharper, more cynical. They basically label his ideas as utopian, an impossible dream, a total fantasy.
And that question, it prompts what might be the most powerful idea in this whole story. He clarifies that, no, a utopia is an escape plan. It's a way to run away from our problems. What he's proposing is something totally different, a trust plan. A plan that isn't based on escaping our burdens, but on trusting our ability to face them head on and to rise with them, to grow stronger because of the challenge.
And this moment just perfectly illustrates the two different ways of seeing the world, doesn't it? The cousin, who's still thinking in terms of cold, hard systems, he just whispers that this whole concept, rising with the burden, it doesn't compute. It makes no logical sense. But the uncle, he calmly replies that, yeah, maybe it doesn't exist in the language of systems, but it is the absolute essence of the language of the human being.
So, the conference ends. The cameras are turned off, the lights in the hall are dimmed, but you can feel that something has shifted. The ideas that were presented on that stage, they're just beginning their real journey.
Because you see, the power of an idea like a trust plan, it was never meant to be trapped inside a conference hall. It's designed to be carried out into the streets, into our actual, messy daily lives, where it has to find its own real meaning and its own application.
And that leads us to the final, really resonant thought from the uncle. This whole idea of trust, of rising with our burdens. It's not some passive concept you just think about. No, it's an active force out there in the world, and it's searching. It's searching for people and for places where it can actually take root and start to make a real difference.
So, think about the journey we just took. We started by measuring a skyscraper, and we ended up measuring an idea. We went from an upward gaze to an inward one. And so that leaves all of us with one final question to think about. In your world, with your unique challenges, where does a word like this, a word like trust, find its place?